So here's the truth. We're distracted, way too distracted. Our attention is fragmented, our thought is outsourced to constant consumption, and distraction has become a coping mechanism for the uncertainty and chaos in the world. We're actually living through a collapse of internal coherence. And the thing is, we're not just distracted, we're dysregulated, pulled in too many directions, consuming more than we can integrate, and soothing ourselves from uncertainty instead of meeting it. The result is our agency has dissolved, and the work now is not just more productivity or willpower, it's actually regulating our nervous system through presence, stillness, and conscious distraction management. We have to remove some things in order to remain within the right thing. So how do we reclaim our focus and become indistractable? Because in a world designed to fragment our focus, mastering our attention is actually a superpower that we really, really want to have. The first thing for us to understand is that most of our distractions stem from within. We tend to think that most of our distractions are from some external triggers, but those are just about 10%. 90% of our distractions begin from some uncomfortable state within us. It could be boredom, it could be fatigue, it could be loneliness, or it could be anxiety. And what that results in is we are getting distracted from the task at hand. Okay, so how do we drive focus? It's a combination of a few things. Firstly, as we understand, a lot of our distraction is caused by internal discomforting states. So having a very good awareness of these internal triggers is a very good starting point. And then devising some mechanisms or controls to manage external triggers. But even these two are not enough. We need to have also some sort of commitment to our own selves for managing our distractions. And in combination of these three things, we are able to drive focus. There's a framework mentioned in the book called Indistractable by Nir Eyal. I think if I am hopefully pronouncing his name right. And there are 4 things there. First step is you master your internal triggers. The second is make space for traction, which basically means you need to plan what you're trying to not get distracted from. If there is nothing you're trying to get distracted from, then you could do just about anything. There needs to be something that you want to do with focus so that you're not distracted from it. So you need to define it. The third thing is remove external triggers, and we'll talk about it. And then fourth is the commitment part, which is prevent distraction with pacts. And then we could combine this framework with some classic focus boosters like rule of 3 priorities, weekly alignment rituals, one-tap thinking, seasonal North Star list, 10-minute action starts, somatic yes or no check-ins with yourself, and logging and celebrating small wins. So let's start with the first one, the big one, which is mastering our internal triggers. What this means is that we have to learn how to master our internal triggers before they become our master. So it could be too much news, too much social media, too much caffeine, too much, sports or whatever. You are always going to get distracted from something unless you understand what is that uncomfortable sensation you are trying to escape from. Some helpful tools and techniques here include trigger tracking, which is when you notice you got distracted, pause and notice what exactly triggered that distraction. And then sit with yourself for, let's say, 5 minutes and ask yourself, why did I get distracted? What am I feeling? Am I trying to escape some discomfort? What is that discomfort that I'm feeling? What do I really, really need right now, which I'm trying to satisfy myself with by means of that distraction? Then step 2 to becoming indistractable is making time for traction. What that means is you cannot say you got distracted from something unless you know what it distracted you from. So if you don't put something in your calendar or in your planning or in your schedule that is traction, there is no such thing as distraction. You've got to protect your traction with planned time and energy. So you can time box what you don't want to be distracted from using techniques like time blocking, calendar planning, scheduled focus windows for a particular activity. And you can also use techniques like energy mapping, which is deciding how much energy will I give to a certain activity or a task or a certain people, and then prioritize them accordingly. How much energy will I give to them, and when during the day will I give that energy to them? Okay, so now the third step to becoming indistractable is to ask ourselves this critical question around external triggers. Question is this external trigger serving me or am I serving it? And then once you're aware, systematically remove, hack back all the external triggers around you. It could be phone, it could be your computer, it could be, pointless meetings, emails, social invites. It could be so many things, right? But having that awareness of the trigger serving you or otherwise is a good starting point for you to start systematically removing all those triggers that don't serve. Some tools and techniques here could be setting your device on focus, do not disturb or silent mode, airplane mode sometimes, managing app settings that help you maintain focus. You could also have a set criteria for how would you respond to communication like texts and emails and meetings, invites. There's also noise cancelling headphones for maintaining focus in an area where there is noise. You should also be able to set a suitable physical space for each focused activity. Sometimes it's home, sometimes it's your office, sometimes it's a coffee place, sometimes it's a workspace somewhere else, it could be a park, etc. But what really helps you drive focus for a certain activity, define that suitable physical space. And also keeping your space clean and clutter-free helps keep your mind clutter-free and drives focus. And then the fourth one is actually prevent distraction with pacts. And pacts serve as a last line of defense against distraction. It's kind of like, we're trying other things, but if it all fails, we know what to do when distraction arises by means of these pacts. So there are three types of pacts: price pact, effort pact, and identity pact. Price pact is focused on managing your distractions by making you pay for it if it arises. For example, it could be your phone getting locked out if you use it more than the defined time. And an effort pact is something that requires your extra effort. For example, if you use your phone in some other room, so it's harder to reach, right? And then there's an identity pact, which is more about something that affects your identity. It could be an affirmation to yourself. For example, I'm the kind of person who keeps promises with herself or himself. So if the distraction arises, your identity is at stake. So let's talk about some focus boosters, which really nicely add on to the framework we just spoke about. These could be anything from a weekly alignment ritual, which is 10 to 15 minutes reset every week to review your wins and clarify what matters for the next week and realign your next week with intention. There's also one tap thinking, which is you just focus on one tab or one task or one activity at a time to reduce cognitive load and keep your mind uncluttered. In today's world, there's a lot of multitasking that goes on, which may sound productive, but eventually at the end of the day, it's exhausting and it affects the quality of your work and it drains you and it drains your vital force energy. The third thing is the seasonal North Star list. So it could be a short list of priorities, 3 to 5 maybe, and you can define it for your liking for the next week or for the next month or for the next quarter. It's just a priorities list and it anchors your decisions and choices and helps you respond to life accordingly instead of going into a reactive living mode. The fourth one is 10-minute action starts. This is really helpful. I personally find it helpful. There are tasks that you know you got to do, but then you keep avoiding them. So if you just manage your resistance with a commitment to only 10 minutes for doing the activity and then not anymore, it just gets you started. It just melts the resistance and it helps build momentum and gets you into the flow. It could be 10 minutes at the start, then 15 maybe later on, and so on and so forth. But it drives action and focus. There's also somatic yes and no check-ins, like you pause and ask your body, how am I feeling about this activity? Does this activity expand me or contract me? And it's a great alignment tool for better decision making and driving focus. Lastly, a lot of it is about encouragement and motivation, right? So celebrating your wins, tracking the tiny steps you complete each day, they rewire your brain for consistency, confidence, and progress. And so once the framework and these boosters are put into practice, it is often the case that the distractions we face do not have so much power over us, and then we stop reacting to life and we start responding and directing our attention. So all of this means that we're more present to our own life. We are internally coherent with a regulated nervous system. We're capable of meaning making and expanding and receiving more from life and taking inspired action. So I hope this helps you. If you have any comments, please share in the chat. All right, thank you. Bye.